So it's now public knowledge that Anthony Joshua had actually signed to fight Deontay Wilder before the Otto Wallin fight, I guess sometime in the past few weeks. And it was apparently set to be announced on the show in Saudi last Saturday if Deontay Wilder had beaten Joseph Parker, but he obviously didn't. However, Deontay Wilder claims that it was all just a big ruse by Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, and they had absolutely no intention of honoring the contract that they just signed. Deontay claims that he heard a rumor that AJ was planning to retire after the Otto Wallin fight if Deontay had beaten Joseph Parker. So to quote Deontay directly, he said, "When I lost, did you see how happy he was coming out? I broke out laughing. I made him be able to perform like that. He was like, phew, I ain't got to fight Wilder." The rumor was he was talking about retiring if I won. One gentleman, he overheard them talking and he came back and told me what he heard and their plans. They don't really have true intentions of fighting me. They can say what they want, but I know for sure. My heart is shattered because I wanted to know what would have become of that. They can escape now if they want to. March 9, the fight can still go on, but this is a perfect way for them to get out. All right, those are the words of Deontay Wilder. Now, let me tell you the part of that I somewhat agree with. Anthony Joshua, I personally think, would have been somewhat uplifted upon hearing the news that not only Deontay Wilder lost to Joseph Parker, but also Jarrell Miller losing to Daniel Dubois. Because AJ seems to feel tension a bit more strongly than some other fighters. And so he had two people in that arena that night who he really didn't like, who'd had beef with for a number of years. Hearing that they'd lost, I suspect, I could be wrong, this is just my suspicion, that it did actually make AJ feel somewhat happy and feel like maybe there's some justice in the world. But with that being said, when Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz all those years ago, Deontay Wilder was happy. He was absolutely over the moon. He was gloating, he was ecstatic. So yeah, he can say all of what he wants about AJ being happy coming to the ring against Wallin after hearing that Wilder and maybe Jarrell Miller had lost. But Wilder was the same when AJ lost to Ruiz. Let's not forget that. Now, here's the part I don't agree with. This idea that Anthony Joshua would sign the contract with the Saudis to fight Deontay Wilder and then just pull out and say that he's retired. I don't buy it. The only way that I could have seen that happening is if AJ performed really bad against Wallin or lost and Deontay Wilder blasted Joseph Parker out in the round. If something like that had happened, maybe it would have been possible for AJ to, after the fight, say he was going to retire. But if AJ dealt with Wallin the way he did and Deontay had won against Parker, I fully expect the fight would have gone ahead. I certainly would not have expected Anthony Joshua to retire. You know, AJ's always been a guy, going back to his amateur days, who was willing to get in the ring even when he wasn't completely sure of himself. Now, I have accused Anthony Joshua of avoiding at least one fight in the past, and that was Tyson Fury the last time he was offered that bout. I don't personally think AJ was on it. That was coming directly off the second loss to Alexander Usyk. I don't think AJ's head was in the right place to fight Tyson Fury at that point. But other than that, AJ's always been the kind of guy who, even when he's not quite ready, even when he's not quite sure of himself, he'll get in the ring and give it a go anyway. He fought in the World Championships. This was in 2011. He had barely any experience compared to the guys he was fighting who had hundreds and hundreds of amateur fights. He must have had doubts in his head going in there against those guys. But he went in and did it anyway. When he fought Vladimir Klitschko with 50 or 60 fights on his resume, he'd obviously sparred Vladimir Klitschko. He knew how good he was. AJ wasn't even ready for that fight, but he took it anyway. That's how AJ's been ever since his amateur days. He's willing to gamble and just see what happens in a fight. So there's no pattern in AJ's career that would lead me to believe that had Deontay Wilder beat Parker, AJ wouldn't have honored his contract and fought Wilder. I think the money's too big, and I think he would have got a certain amount of confidence beating Wallin anyway. He would have gone ahead with it. A lot of what Deontay Wilder is saying here, in my view, is him trying to save face in front of his fanboys, and also him hoping to still salvage that maybe last big payday against Anthony Joshua in March. That's a play to get that, as far as I'm concerned. So as much as I agree with Wilder that AJ must have felt some type of happiness hearing that Miller and Wilder had lost, not necessarily because he wanted to avoid Wilder, but because he probably feels hard done by in terms of the credit that he hasn't got compared to the credit Wilder's got. Because you look at AJ's resume, it's much better than Wilder's resume. But Wilder is held in higher esteem by a lot of boxing fans. And I think that's something that's always always kind of disturbed AJ a bit. That he unified the division. He never became undisputed, but he had 3 belts. He fought all these top guys and somehow gets no credit at all. Meanwhile, you look at Deontay Wilder's resume, it's wafer thin, and he gets lauded as the best heavyweight in the world behind Tyson Fury for so many years. So with Deontay losing to a guy that AJ already beat, AJ, I think, would have felt, wow, maybe there is some justice in the world. People can now see that my resume wasn't weak the way Deontay Wilder was trying to make it out to be, because he lost to somebody who I beat. Anyway, don't want to labor the point. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below.